So my name's Kurt Schlegel, and I'm one of the commissioners from the county. And I just want to go around the room and let staff introduce themselves first, and then I'll kind of talk about why I've asked you guys to come on down here and talk with us. And then I'll just ask each of you to identify who you are and what district you might represent, and then we'll just have just a little chat and discussion. The idea of this meeting is just purely a meet and greet, just so we can start the discussion about, is anybody interested in looking at a long-range plan for water and sewer service here in the county. So again, I'm Kurt Schlegel. I represent District 2, which is the upper west side of the county. And
Larry Ross, District 3.
Wade Gately, County Attorney.
Kyle Fenner, Director of CBS.
Robert Rowland, Commissioner in District 1.
And Mr. O'Hearn, your staff.
County Engineer, Sean O'Hearn.
Thank you very much. And so if you're part of a water district, if you represent a water district, and that's what that signage is for. Did everybody get signed in? Okay, great. If you would just tell us who you are and what district you represent. And if you got my invitation or if you got it through somebody else, because I want to make sure I've captured everybody.
I'm Dave Stone with the Upper Big Sandy Groundwater Management District.
Outstanding.
Dick Eason, Town Administrator, Town Elizabeth.
Where is Elizabeth, actually?
Somewhere around here, I don't know.
Is Mike?
I think so.
Oh, okay, good.
Rachel Hudson, I'm the Community Development Director with
So you're part of the board of directors. Got it.
Steve Witter with Raphael County Water and Wastewater Authority.
Brian Matisse, General Counsel for Clearwater Metropolitan District.
Brian Jerome, President of Clearwater Metropolitan District. I got your invitation through our district council meeting.
My name is Alan Luke, and I'm also one of the directors on the Clearwater.
Outstanding. Anybody else representing a water district? Yes, sir.
Alan Beebe, Brittany Ridge.
Outstanding. Thank you for coming. Mr. Koger, you're part of our Water Advisory Committee, and we got a couple other members here. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Will Koger. I'm with the engineering firm Forrester and Associates, and on the Water Advisory Committee.
And then the other gents that are on our Water Advisory Committee, if you want to introduce yourself.
Jerry Lauer, Howard County Court.
Bob Ware.
Outstanding. Perfect. Okay, so I sent out an invitation back in May, and it was to the different water districts and the towns that reside in the county. If you've been in the county for any longer than about 5 minutes, you know water is a huge issue. During my tenure, the last 3.5 years in office, it's been like a roller coaster ride. Depending on the issue that comes up, it tends to draw a lot of interest. Primarily the interest is folks are worried about their property rights. The other one is there's a lot of misinformation that's spread around during these kind of discussions. And so the idea of this, the whole idea of this is we've recognized that Elbert County is going to grow. I mean, it's just a matter of time. We're in a little bit of a lull right now because of the economy, but it's going to start growing again. And in order to attract any reasonable amount of commercial development or any residential development other than the large 10, 20, 30, 40 acre lots, we're going to have some kind of a water infrastructure in place. I'm not a water engineer. I don't know the first thing about how to start building or planning for a water infrastructure. And so what I wanted to do, ran this past my fellow commissioners and staff, is I just wanted to have a meeting so we could sit down and talk with you guys and meet you. First of all, figure out who all the players are in the county. And granted, they're not all here. Some have chosen not to come because of water being such a contentious issue. And that's just for the water districts, unless anybody else wants to sign in. Okay? Thanks. And so, that's one of the things we're going to look at. We have a master plan for the county for development. It's old. It needs to be updated. And so we're starting to work on that. And along with that, I believe we need to start looking at a water plan so that we can identify areas that may need an infrastructure for water and sewer, and then lay out some steps as to how we're going to get to that point. Because if we don't do that, and development happens in the county, which it will happen, it's either going to run us over or it's going to go right around us, and we're going to be left out of the picture. Make sense? You guys want to say anything before we go any further?
We had a pretty good discussion preliminary. We frequently meet with the town of Elizabeth because they have some infrastructure in place, and about how far out they may be willing to reach with their pipes in order to capture some commercial development in the area. So we've been having some discussions with Elizabeth. And Dick indicates that they're only at 35% capacity on their sewage treatment, so there's opportunities there for people to develop in the area.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. We did have a good meeting last night. We're going to follow up with that and have another one. And, I think just philosophically, the whole issue about not just water per se, but infrastructure that brings the kind of opportunities for economic development in Elbert County is something that we've just not been able to address, and we need to moving forward. Several of us, Larry, myself, and Kyle here, are all on each one of the basin, the Metro Water Basin, the Arkansas Water Basin, and the South Platte, all of which, in one way or another, affect Elbert County. And there's this governor's plan that they're working on through these basin roundtables, mine being the Metro. Comes closer and closer to the deadline of July 31st, whether or not we're going to make that or not, I don't know. But, as you start to read the drafts of these water plans and some of the surrounding conversations that go along with gaps and Front Range and Western Slope, it's pretty clear, historically, that we're in a state where water, we've talked about water wars and all the things that go with water out here. But there's things coming and there's going to be things we can control and things we can't control. But the reality is the Front Range is looking at long-term gaps of 550,000, I think, acre feet per year by the year 2040. We need to be at the table. We need to be having these conversations, being in a county where we're basically on groundwater and aquifers, and starting to have that conversation. But what are we going to do is, if 20 years from now, we become the next Douglas County, the next Parker, and as we see development come towards Elbert County, we don't have the infrastructure to have much other than, rental, the place that's being built right now on 13 and St. House. You can't build a Cabela's on a septic tank. And you can't encourage and invite economic development along the corridors that will help us become healthy and sustainable for the next 50 years if we don't build it and ask them to come. So I think it's time for that conversation to begin, and it's not going to be an easy conversation. It's going to be contentious in some ways. There's the issue of property rights. There's the issue of what is the water supply. We're working hard right now, and Will's really been helping us to try to get grants that will provide some funds, $337,000 to begin with, to do a 3 to 5 year water study, a voluntary well monitoring study in Elbert County. We've all talked for years. I've been here 18 years. What is the well? What is the water level? What is the usage? What is the impact of Parker Water and Sanitation's draw on the western side of our county, on our overall aquifer health? None of us really know. It's a kind of it's hard to look down there that far below. So it's time for us to try to engage and I think get into the next century and try to have reasonable conversations with Elizabeth in terms of being our business center and having some infrastructure now. There's been discussions about Parker Water Sanitation along Singing Hills and what could be done over there if we could partnership somewhere down the future with them and bring the kind of opportunities that you all in your metro area, your metro districts and developers could say to Elbert County, wow, this is a place we'd like to come and do business. And we're not talking about putting smokestacks in Elbert County. We're not talking about changing the lifestyle of our eastern side that much. That's really probably not going to happen in anybody's lifetime, probably the next 2 lifetimes. But we do have corridors where we can bring some sustainability and some economic development, and we need to have those conversations. It's time.
Mm-hmm. So. Good. And I'd just like to get some perspective from the water district folks. I know that some of you have dealt with, we've all dealt with the county in the past. And have you run into roadblocks? Where do you see Elbert County going and your water district?
I'll start with that.
Sure.
I represent Clearwater. We're on the very northwest side of Elbert County. We're 6 miles from Southlands area.
That's the upper west side, by the way.
What did I say?
The northwest corner.
Yeah,
The upper west side.
Yeah, the Upper West Side.
Some Chicago.
Yeah, so I mean, relative to, the travel that I've done in Elbert County, I mean, we see a lot coming our way, whether it's the Kingdom Hall or whether it's, the King Supers that's being built there and Blackstone, just on the other side of the county lines. Just sort of my opinion on this is we would probably be one of the first to see more commercial development. From a water district perspective, we have a district that currently encompasses another development that's not been developed. It's Eagle View Whisper. That's currently owned by a bank.
That's scheduled to be a little over 300 and some single-family homes that it's been on hold now for the last 6 years or so. But if that ever comes online, we're going to dramatically need
It's
to.
actually owned by Cordillera.
Right, which is actually San Miguel Valley Corporation is the
Correct.
is the whole.
Cordillera,
Right,
it's
right.
not a bank.
Right, it's not a bank. That's right.
So anyway, just perspective on our district, we've just kind of been waiting for that to, some developer to come approach us, and I believe that's part of our service plan. And we do have facilities. There was a study done, reclamation facility study done for our district before that developer moved on.
Sure.
But
And did that have to do with wastewater treatment as well?
Yeah.
That was the wastewater treatment reclamation, which is why the county granted the developer bonus development, bonus density.
The bonus density associated with reclamation projects.
Mhm.
What I see being kind of in this area for 20 years is, am I wrong in my thinking? Elbert County is waiting on the state to make decisions about water and then reacting to developers as they walk in. Instead of, is this meaning hopefully to kind of turn that around and be in front of that?
Exactly, and that's what prompted this, is that instead of being reactive, and that's my opinion, I think we've been reactive all these years, and it's time to be proactive and get out in front of that freight train.
having said that, I mean, our district from a water perspective is incredibly healthy. I mean, we have 75 homes in North Pines Metro District currently, all on 5 acres. We've got, I believe it's over 300 acre feet or just over 300.
Well, the total for both, we've got two different
Yeah,
water
I was
rights.
gonna go
The
there.
total's close to 1,000 acre feet, which is more than enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's like
In the near future.
the study we had done at the time was like 300 years of water for the
Sure.
current density there. So we actually have a right that we obtained on 300 or so acre feet or 100 and something that is, could be on the market.
Sure, but it's virtually untapped at this point.
It's untapped.
Yeah.
Part of
All
the
right.
issue is access to it, but we can
Okay.
chat about that. We just
All right.
haven't had a reason to go deep into that.
How about anybody else? What kind of perspective do you have?
Okay, as I mentioned, I'm from the Big Sandy Groundwater Management District, and we certainly are concerned about the sustainability of the shallow alluvium. Noticed some drop in level in various areas, some recharge this last fall in various areas. One of the things we want to have discussions with Elbert County is in the development density, as you talked about. We're currently discussing whether to try to incorporate new rules on small users. We have a moratorium on any new large capacity wells, but at this point just defer to the state, which is I believe 50 acre feet per well on a small user. We're going to start discussion with our constituents whether that ought to be something less than that, and we're thinking in 3 to 5 acre feet per well. I also am the manager for the town of Lyman, and as far as that goes, having discussions for any development in the Lyman area. Lyman is right on the boundary of Elbert and Lincoln County. It's within 100 feet of our water treatment plant at Elbert County. So having some kind of MOU in place for development in that vicinity would be a good thing. Most of our wells are in Elbert County, the town's wells. So kind of dual hats here or whatever, so
Sure.
various interests. So.
Okay, good. And I know, Dick, we met with town council or those folks last night, so, I mean, what kind of perspective do you have as far as the town goes?
On the water side, we've got more than enough capacity for what we have now. I think We have somewhere between 750 and 800 water accounts right now, and we've got plenty of capacity there. The wastewater side is, as you mentioned, we're at roughly 35% capacity of our 5-year-old wastewater treatment plant. So there's lots of room for growth.
Great.
And you said your service is about 400 homes.
Yeah.
At 35%, 400.
Right.
Not including the commercial
Not and the school.
services.
In the schools.
Okay. Anybody else? I know Aqua's had some involvement with the county a little bit. What would be your perspective from Aqua?
We did an arrangement with some folks in Elbert County, it's been maybe 10 or 12 years ago, to serve water out of it. And we've been maintaining that. Other than that, we haven't really come out here and looked for service or anything like that, but I think our view and our board's view is, we're happy to listen to thoughts, and if there are things that we can do to help, we'd be there to talk about those things.
Okay. And is everybody of the same mindset that you'd be willing to sit down at a table and start working towards a master plan? I mean, do you feel that you'd have something to bring to the table and you'd be interested in doing that? Because again, I don't expect the elected officials to do this. I mean, if this moves forward, what I would propose is, I'll set up another meeting, an actual study session, if you will. And then what I believe is our responsibility as elected officials is to set a vision for the county and to set a vision for that master plan. And then I'm going to turn that over to staff. And I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory fashion. It's just, that's going to be staff and the professionals that actually develop a plan. And then it's up to them to bring it to us or whoever's in office at that time, because I don't think it's probably going to happen in 6 months. For us to review, first it would come to the citizens and the planning commission for them to review, and then it would come to us to review and possibly adopt. So, does that sound like a viable plan, or does anybody else?
Not to speak on the board's
Sure.
behalf for Clearwater, but my personal belief is, as close as development is getting to us, and as attractive as the sort of our community is, as an adjacent community to the Southlands area and all of that. I think the idea of having a plan now, or at least having a discussion on what's within the realm of possibility, and then how do you actually take steps is a good idea. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, everything kind of, 2008 was a tough year, and everything's gone quiet. And there was a lot of commercial development associated with our district that has been put on hold. Obviously, the residential has been put on hold. But our district is adjacent to Aurora. It's not just Arapahoe County, it's Aurora.
Right.
We're adjacent to Aurora, and we're rural. And there's going to be a lot of, I think, if Elbert County can get ahead of the game instead of behind Aurora, we already know what Aurora is doing with water. They're pulling it from everywhere. But if we can be ahead of the sales pitch, essentially, to developers, to the commercial entities that may be thinking about coming onto the properties near us, I think it would serve the county well. Obviously, we're at the tip of the spear, because we're right there, if you know where we're at. And it's just climbing right through Aurora going our direction. I think if there was more than just one district plan in place, if there was this master plan that Elbert County was supporting and behind, I think it would give everybody in the county a better step forward as the developers walk in.
Yeah, with that said, we're part of Elbert County. I purposely didn't buy in Aurora. Also understanding what the limitations to what this master plan would also include, right? When we do get approached, on something that's outside of what's been discussed or part of the master plan, it's very simple to say that's not something we're going to do.
Right.
And if you want to do that, then you're going to have to go somewhere north of County Line Road.
Okay.
I think the other concern is to avoid turf wars between the various different special districts and the cities. I think it's important that, for example, Clearwater is that right now we're a small district, but we have a service area, a potential service area that is quite large, a big chunk of the northwest portion of the county, and that's what it was originally planned to serve. We don't want. I think it's if we can have a master plan now and avoid intergovernmental agreements that would potentially short circuit the master plan, that would be useful. Because otherwise what happens is the developer just goes to a friendly water provider and attempts to go around the
We play
master
one
plan.
against the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good. You know, one of the other things, and really this started because Will invited me to a meeting in Douglas County. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I was wondering, can you just talk a little bit about how that, number one, what the name of the group is? I can never remember and I need to write
Sure.
it down. But how it was formed and what they actually do.
Okay. Yeah, that's the South Metro Water Supply Authority, and it is an outgrowth of the Douglas County Water Resource Authority, which was formed back in the late 90s by Douglas County Commissioner, and he invited all the water providers in the region to come in and start talking about water issues. And so really all the communities that were that had water systems were all part of that Douglas County Water Resource Authority group. And now the South Metro Water Supply Authority is a group of 15 water providers along the South Metro area. It includes East Creek Valley Water and Sanitation District, Parker Water and Sand District, Town of Castle Rock, and the Highlands Ranch District are the 4 big providers. And they're all working with Denver, Aurora, to bring water off the South Platte River downstream of Denver, to bring it down to the Aurora Reservoir area, where they'll treat that water and blend it with mountain water and use that water. So there's a lot of good things that are happening with that group, but it's taken a long time to get to this point. They've been meeting for 15 years, 14 years, something like that. So it's not something that happens overnight, but certainly there's a lot of critical mass going on and a lot of good direction with that. And Denver and Aurora individually would not have dealt with any one of those 15 providers, but as a group, they have some clout and are worth dealing with from Denver and Aurora's perspective. So something like that could be a future for Auburn County.
Thanks. And Rick just brought something to my attention. From the water districts, would you guys be able to help with the questions that you need answered in order to move forward or help the county with a water development plan?
Yeah, I think so from our perspective. I mean, we know what questions we have.
Okay. And I agree. I think we're going to get a lot more done if we work together than work as little islands or silos around the county. My vision of Elbert County is someday we're not going to have those 30 or 35 separate water districts around. There'll be some combination or consolidation of those districts so that they can work together or provide for a better need. But I think the more that we can foster those relationships, the better off we're going to be. I don't anticipate that we're going to get all the water districts that want to come into play. There's just going to be some that won't. There's not a lot of folks here today for one reason or the other, but I think that as the project or the process moves forward, we'll see more and more of those different or disparate districts coming on board. And I just think all we can do is move the ball forward in this. I don't think it's going to hurt anybody's effort at all. And again, there's a faction in the county that wants no growth and that doesn't want to do anything with water, doesn't want to do anything with anything. They just want to maintain the way it is. And I think that's pretty unrealistic to have that kind of a vision. It's going to come, and we need to be prepared for it. And so I just want to say I thank you for coming today. If you didn't sign up on the sheet, please do, before we break up. And I'll just ask staff or the other commissioners, do you guys have any questions or anything you want to bring up?
No, I think it's a great start, and I think the idea of a study session, publicly noticed study session, I appreciate you all coming out. Sometimes it takes a little bit of starch in your shirt to come out and face some of the tough issues that are controversial politically and otherwise. But I think if we don't all start having these conversations pretty quick, we're gonna 20 years from now, if we're still around or still coherent, we're gonna be wishing that we had. And I think we owe it to the future of Elbert County and the future generations and the economic stability of this county to get moving and get on board and find out, because there's going to be forces that we can address, that we can deal with, and there's going to be forces that are going to be out of our control. And we're better off, as you said, taking the initiative and getting out in front on the offense instead of the defense. And we've used the analogy of the trains that leave the station. We're going to be either left there or we're going to be on the train. Let's get on the train.
Or run over on the track.
Or run over on the track.
Is there any questions that we can answer for you all before we move on to the next step?
I guess in your mind today, I mean, what does the future look like for commercial development in Elbert County based on your perspective as commissioners? And even from a residential development perspective, I mean, how often are you approached to develop new service plans, approve them, and what do those look like? I mean, what do you see in 10 years, the upper west side of Elbert County looking like?
Sure. And I'd ask Kyle just to talk about what we've been approached by or with up to this point.
Okay.
And I don't think it's been very much.
No, as you mentioned, there are some projects on ice, if you will.
Yeah.
Whether some of them come to fruition or not, it remains to be seen. Building permits are certainly going, we've doubled and then doubled again. So building permits are happening, but they're happening in established, already approved subdivisions that already have all those plans. New service plans, none. Doesn't mean if the trajectory that we're looking at stays the same and the growth stays the same, and everybody's going to have their own opinion on whether or not that happens, we may start seeing some new stuff. I would estimate that we're going to see the resurrection of old stuff. We all know where that is. We're talking Bandera. There's half a dozen of them. There's actually more than that, but there's half a dozen that are viable that could possibly do it. They may need some reworking based on some changes that have happened between then and now. So that could happen. Commercial, I mean, right now we've got a commercial property that's on a failed septic. We can't have that. I mean, it's literally a failed septic, and it grew beyond its means, and septic doesn't work with commercial development. And commercial development is part of what will help us subsidize our property taxes and pay for the roads. I mean, if we can have an outsider pay for our road, that's great.
We need some of that.
So, but that's an opinion, and it's not one that everybody shares.
Sure.
But from our perspective, we have a lot of challenges approving commercial development when it's got an impact that septic, and that's probably the largest thing septic can't support.
You asked about vision. So what my vision is, I think there's a few prime corridors for commercial development. One is the 194 corridor up on the Upper West Side. The other one is the Singing Hills corridor, and then the Route 86 corridor. There are some very prime spots, like the town of Elizabeth. I'll just talk from my perspective, that Upper West Side. There are thousands of cars that go past the intersection of County Line Road and Delbert Road every morning and every night coming back. And every one of those people shop in Aurora, in Parker, in Denver. And they're spending their money there, and they're not spending their money here. And that's an ideal area to develop, whether we get a grocery store or a couple of restaurants or a gas station or whatever that is to start. We need to start, and I agree with Kyle, we need to start capturing some of that through commercial entities so that, we're not just basing the county's revenue on residential rooftops.
Yeah,
because
that's exactly why I asked. Is gas stations, you can't order pizza out there, which is fine, but a lot of people move from a city and they think, oh, I'm rural now.
The majority of the people that live there expect the same services that they got in the metropolitan area.
Whether that's a local business or any of that, I think there's a lot of room up there for it. And you're right, we trek over C-470 to go get gas or buy it at the Walmart there or whatever.
And one of the other things is getting out in front of it, as you said, will allow us to plan the inevitable. And if we don't plan some of those corridors and it simply happens to us, that's where you end up with blighted corridors. That's when you end up with really ugly entries to your county. And people some of them have land rights, and they have the right to do something on that land. If we have that plan and some of those things, then at least we have some say in what it looks like and how it impacts us and how it impacts our experience there.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about all the time is, the old analogy, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so does the infrastructure come before the commercial entities or the additional residential opportunities? I say it does, because if I'm a developer, and I've never developed anything in my life except I've built little models and things. But if I'm a developer and I'm looking at having to come in and first buy land and then put up a structure and then find somebody to lease that structure, now I got to worry about where am I going to get my water and who's going to bring a sewer line out to run into me. That's probably going to chase me away and send me somewhere else looking for a different opportunity. Where if we at least have a plan of how that service is going to be provided and who may be able to provide that service, I think that would alleviate a lot of those concerns from the developers.
What do you see your vision as Albert County being involved in that process? Because I've watched this development we've been a part of. Start from essentially that cattle pasture, build the infrastructure, then reach out to commercial, get that developed, costing the district a lot of money to get that, even that engineering in place. And then powers that be, the economy tanks, and now we're sitting on a lot of infrastructure that's not used. How can the county interact with, unfortunately, developers have a bad name, but it's the developers that drive the process instead of the county. If the county came in and put infrastructure in, then the development would come, but that's not the way it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and on Kurt's opinion, and I'll put on my own personal hat, that's not county government's business to do water or sewer infrastructure. Towns do it, cities do it, but in my mind, it's not up to county government. We're just too broad. And that is something that I would look to the districts and the developers to provide. And maybe not build it, but as long as we have a plan and know that when this starts to move forward, this is going to be the first line that's going to be built. And these are the folks that are interested in providing the service to those lines. And it would just feed on itself. As far as the county providing any oversight, yeah, we'll be there. And I think what our job is to let folks know in that commercial or development community is we're open for business. We are not just that bedroom community. It's going to be the 5-acre and 3-acre lots and everybody else stay out. I think we need to change that message to the developers in the metropolitan area.
That's what I was looking for, is that your vision as the county to work with the developers to present a picture to the new people?
I believe it's incumbent upon us to do that. Now, I'm one person. As people move in and out of office, those change. But what we're trying to do at the county level is we're trying to establish a stable staff that handles day-to-day business. And so that it's not the elected officials that are constantly having their fingers in all of the pies. It's staff takes care of the daily business. We set the vision for what we think the county should look like, should be in that next 10 to 20 years. And then I rely on staff to carry out, the goals and the initiatives to achieve that vision. Sure.
And just to support what Kurt said, I think the free market system has to drive this, and we need to create an environment. But I think in Elbert County, and this is my own personal opinion, the unpredictability. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a Hank Reardon of the world like you all are. You're risk takers who go out and take your capital and invest in the future. And I wish I had that kind of courage, but I don't, or the resources. But that's what we need. But how do you provide an environment where that predictability and the stability is there enough for you all to do what you do so well, and to invite others to the table as well. And I think in Elbert County in the past, every 2 years, every 4 years, either the philosophy or the vision or whatever it is changes. That's why I think as we all come and go as politicians, the staff is important, but also to formalize that vision and to have that master plan and have a plan that is passed along regardless of who's in office at the time. And I think that's part of the problem in our country today with the economy. We don't know what's going to happen 2 years from now. We need to change that, and we need to get the conversation and the ball rolling in Elbert County so that it continues. Philosophies might change, but we have to start having some continuity in dealing with the reality of what's coming. And again, I think, Parker Water Sanitation, if you look at what they're doing over there, they've got an incredible developing system over there with some of the greatest technology. I've been through their plants a couple, 3 times with some friends of mine who are water engineers, and they're developing water systems. They're Hess Reservoir. They're taking sewage out of 80,000 homes a day and recycling 1.7 million gallons of water using that same molecule over and over and over again. All those are components of what we need to do for Elbert County, or we're going to be sitting here with our hitching post 20 years from now, and the trams are going to be running all around the county, and we're not going to get any part of that. So we need to get on board now, create a vision, a consistent vision that can be passed from administration to administration and into the future. Work with our town of Elizabeth and our other and on all of you. But it's not the role of government. I don't see government, building a water treatment plant and calling it the Elbert County, municipal sewer plant. But facilitating the atmosphere and the vision and the consistency to make it happen and keep it moving forward. Because this is not going to happen in his term, and it probably won't happen in mine, and maybe 2-3 administrations forward. But we need to get it to where you guys know what's going to happen. Predictability is important.
Yeah, Sean.
And just in the last, from 2008, you mentioned the bottom falling out, there's so many lessons that we've learned. The county doesn't get involved with whether it's Elkhorn or Spring Valley or Brittany Ridge, or, service plans are written, they're based on absorption rates, infrastructure is built. It doesn't do anybody any good to have cul-de-sacs and areas of subdivisions that have roads and water and sanitary lines. Roads are built to be driven on. If they're not, they're going to fall apart. So we've learned so much with regard to how to go forward, and it all starts with planning's comprehensive master plan, I think, and just have water and sanitary being integral parts of that. But to think that the county can do it without all of the lessons learned from our perspective, from your perspective, from the developers, from the homeowners, there's so much great information that we can capitalize, and now is definitely the time.
One of the things I'm really excited about, because you talked about vision. I've been in office for 3.5 years. There's never been a vision for Elbert County. It's just, we deal with one day at a time. And we go from one catastrophe to the next, like the water break yesterday. Oh gosh, what are we going to do about this? It wasn't a catastrophe yesterday. We've got a leadership structure in place now in the county that was able to come in and take command of that and then delegate different responsibilities out to different departments and then different private firms. And we're moving along with our restoration right now. And I can tell you that we're going to finalize a vision and a mission statement for the county on July 9th. We've been talking about it now for about 2 months. And so that'll be the first time ever, I think, that there's an actual vision for Elbert County. And again, that may change. It should change from time to time. A vision is that shining city on the hill where you want to be when you grow up, 20 or 30 years from now. And as time changes and as the county changes, that vision will change as well. But at least that sets the direction for us all to get behind and start walking down that same road. Because in my opinion, where we've been in Elbert County for years is we're all on our own little road trips. And we're all going to different parts of the country, and nobody's got a map. We get to the end of the driveway, and it's like, flip a coin, which way do I turn? This way, if we have those plans, and it's not set in stone, you have to actually follow Part A and then Part B and Part C, but it provides a guideline or a roadmap as to where you're going to go and how you're going to get to that destination. And this is the very first part. We're packing up the car right now, and we're trying to pull all our maps together.
So for what it's worth, I am an entrepreneur, and I think you guys are on the right track. You have to have a goal. And then, how you get there, and you have a plan, and that brings predictability. And everybody understands that, and the plan changes, right? There's unforeseen things, but the ultimate goal does not.
Right.
And so that's why I'm saying within the scope of what you guys are trying to envision here in 20 years or whatever, what is it, right? And then, what are the steps to get there? And I think you guys are on that right track. And, even when we took over our district, it was a mess. To be honest, we spent, years,
Oh, sure.
in litigation and, ultimately, and now it's exactly how we all intended it. And, without wavering from the ultimate goal, we did this the whole time as we got to where we wanted to be, so.
But at least you made small course corrections instead of huge.
Yeah, the goal didn't change.
Right. You bet. Good.
Well, I'm very encouraged. We hear a lot of feedback from, you're all four with Clearwater, is that correct?
Three of us.
Three of you. You can identify what you foresee as opportunities to utilize a reclamation program in that area. I have no problem traveling and going out and seeking out the types of tenants, business park type environments, not just gas stations and Subway sandwich shops necessarily, but job creators.
Right.
So my door is open, and I will be engaged to bring those clients to you if you give me the chance.
Yeah. Well, the county approved a service plan amendment several years ago that allowed Clearwater to serve that area and also to provide, along with its sister district North Pines, a reclamation facility that would be a regional reclamation facility. That was never implemented because of the deterioration, but the service plans are in place. The certainty is what is necessary, and that comes in line with it doesn't make sense unless we have an economy of scale to put in the reclamation facility up in that area. To get that economy of scale, we have to have some guarantee that a new metro district that's created in that area, for example, doesn't get board approval to purchase their water or the reclamation services elsewhere, because they didn't know the economies of scale. If they go to Aqua and scale and get the water from them instead of from us, it doesn't make any sense for us to have a reclamation facility if there's only 100 homes being served. If it's 1,000 or 2,000 homes, that's different.
Understand?
Good. Any other?
You guys had a discussion, we're literally on the map, Arapahoe, Douglas, and Elbert County. We're within a quarter mile of all that. Is this anything, it appears right now, the way things are built, it's a competitive environment. Every county wants their piece.
Sure.
Is there, because of the location there, is there any way of working together with the counties? I know you don't handle the developers, but this vision, because of where, unfortunately, where the money's coming out of, I think that would be part of the discussion, is not for us as districts, but as a county, seeing, working with their vision. What are they changing right at the outskirts or at the fringes of the property? Have you guys started that discussion, or is that even open to discussion? Do you
I
have
believe
any
it
idea?
is. I believe it's open. I mean, we work together with our neighboring counties on road issues, and on those roads that border the counties, kind of like Delaware Road. And it's usually a good working relationship as long as everybody's upfront with each other, and so we know where we're coming from. That there's always going to be spats between different, municipalities or different government entities. But I think that's a good idea, and that's some of the ideas that'll be generated out of this group and other groups. So, it may be something we haven't thought of before. But yeah, we need to know where they're going. They need to know where we're going, so that we work hand in hand.
So specifically, north of Skyrim, which is the community we live in, and then on the Douglas County side of Delbert, there's quite a bit of property that's south of County Line Road, right? And so I don't know the landowners there. I don't know what the plan for that is, but I can imagine with as much density as coming in with Eagle View Whisper and that platted area, and then Blackstone community and all of those guys, a plan and scope for what's all of our vision for that area for business, job creators, and all that is a good idea.
Sure. They see the
Whether
traffic
it's in
too.
10 years or whether that's in 15 years or 20 or whatever.
Yeah. They know the numbers that are coming down there. They know the numbers that are coming through the Singing Hills corridor. Yeah. So
Hilltop, yeah.
It's just a matter of us getting together to work.
Just
with
know
it.
where the stage
I don't
goes.
know if we've actually worked with Douglas County or Arapahoe County, other than on road issues. But yeah, it's a great idea. Anything else? This is just for the developers. It's not a public hearing. Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. If you're all willing, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and set up another meeting in probably 3 or 4 weeks. This will be a more formalized meeting, and hopefully we won't be still moved out of our building, and we'll be able to do it up there. And we'll start that process. Again, I'll send you all invitations, and I'll continue to send invitations to the other districts. And I think that as this moves, it will build momentum, and we'll keep moving that planning process forward.
The other thing that I would just open up is, we have quarterly board meetings for Clearwater and North Pines. If you or a couple of you want to attend those, we can put you on the agenda there.
That'd be awesome.
And
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
you guys can speak to some of the other board members
Sure.
and cover what was covered here.
I appreciate that. Good.
Kurt, when are you going to take questions from the public?
I'm not going to take questions from the public.
Ever?
That wasn't the intent of this meeting.
But you've got people here, why not do it?
I didn't invite these people here. It's a public meeting. Anybody's welcome to come. It's not a public hearing.
Do you have any plans of asking for public opinion for the people who live here?
You've been here for most of the meetings, so you heard what we talked about.
Right.
All of these will be open meetings. If there is a plan developed, it will come to the Planning Commission, and there will be public hearings. Then when it comes to the Board of County Commissioners, there'll be public hearings to talk about that master plan.
That's
Yes,
where we
ma'am.
can go fight to keep Elizabeth from turning into Parker or Aurora, because we didn't
Thank you very
move
much
there.
for coming.